Welcome back. I know you've heard about Bitcoin among other forms of digital currency. We wanted to kind of break that down for you and explain exactly what Bitcoin is and maybe more importantly, what it is not. Our money man, Chris Hopkins, is here. Chris, good morning. Good to see you.
Good morning, Chip.
Bitcoin. Wow, the more I read, the more my head hurts. There are, according to a recent article that you wrote, there are 4,500 digital currencies like Bitcoin out there.
And
who knew?
And that was 2 days ago. There's probably 4,800, 300 have come in, 200 have left. It's a constant flux.
What is this exactly? What is this Bitcoin thing everybody's been hearing about?
All right, great. So you've heard the term digital currency,
Correct.
which is kind of a misnomer. We can talk about the currency part, but it's basically an electronic form of exchange, okay? So, you know, in the early days, people use all kinds of things for exchange. You know,
Sure.
We could trade in barter. But it's harder to do that, so we created a medium of exchange. Today we use money to do that, but you know, people have used salt. There's all kinds of different mediums of exchange. So it's an electronic medium of exchange. Think about it as kind of an electronic money. The difference is that the dollar is issued by the U.S. government.
And backed by the full faith and credit of the United States.
Importantly, backed by the full faith and credit. So
Who backs Bitcoin?
nobody.
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 Who's making money on Bitcoin?
Well, two groups of investors. First of all, the people who bought it early at $1 or 20 cents have made money on the appreciation of Bitcoin as it's become more popular. More importantly, it's the creation of Bitcoin, and it's a complicated issue, but there are people who have enormous computer server farms that are doing these complex computations that create Bitcoin. And they get paid in Bitcoin to do these computations. So, you know, that's a whole hour show on how it gets done. But one important aspect that most people don't realize is that creating these Bitcoins uses a tremendous amount of electricity.
Sure.
I mean, an unbelievable amount of electricity. There's more electricity consumed every year creating Bitcoins than the entire country of Norway uses.
Wow.
Half the electricity in the UK. That's how much energy is being employed creating these things. So there's a big concern about the environmental impact of Bitcoin.
Yet you could probably call 10 out of 10 of your best friends and say, what's Bitcoin worth right now? And nobody's got an accurate idea.
Right, well, it's worth what you're willing to pay me for it.
Yeah, and therein lies the rub. Yeah. I mean, it seems like a lot of people, and I know a couple personally who have made money investing in Bitcoin.
You bet.
They were smart enough to double their money and then get out. Or that's what they're telling me.
Yeah.
Who's the winner long term over this, or is it too early to tell?
I think it's way too early to say. Now look, there are aspects of this that are very interesting. The technology that underlies this is eventually going to back a digital version of the US dollar. There's no question about that. That countries, including the US Federal Reserve, China, all these countries are working on their own versions of a digital version of their own currency that will operate on the underlying technology of Bitcoin. But Bitcoin itself, or Dogecoin, or Ethereum, or any of these 4,500 currencies, it's entirely unknown.
Now, according to what you told me, Bitcoin is limited to 23 million. That seems like kind of an arbitrary number.
Yeah.
But 21 million are already gone.
That's right.
So what happens?
Already created.
What happens? Created. What happens when 23 million is reached?
Well, that's a good question.
Do they decide, let's bump it to 25, or?
And the answer is no one really knows. So there's two arguments to this. The argument that you're going to replace currencies with a Bitcoin, let's just say Bitcoin, which is about half of all the digital currencies, Bitcoin. If it has a limited supply, you can only have 23 million in existence, and you're already almost there. And the number that's being produced gets smaller and smaller as you get closer to the limit.
Right.
That's almost like backing your dollar with gold, a limited supply, right? So what that does is it exacerbates things like depressions. The gold standard was really bad for the volatility of the economy. Plus, you lose control of the ability to control the money supply as a government. So nobody knows for sure what's going to happen when we hit that limit.
And if you've looked at your tax return, which you should have by now, obviously, you had to make a declaration on Bitcoin one way or the other.
Right. You had to declare, have you transacted in Bitcoin? And here's another complexity. Let's say, you know, we just talked to the coffee roasters, Mad Priest. Well, suppose I went in and I bought a cup of coffee at Mad Priest and they accepted a Bitcoin payment, then theoretically I would have to report to the IRS what I paid for my coffee and what I originally paid for that Bitcoin that I used to buy the coffee with. Now imagine the complexity of reporting that kind of thing. And again, that's totally unsettled. The IRS is working on it.
Sounds like a lot of room for some serious troubles if you're not carefully. Chris Hopkins, good to see you as always. You want to get in touch with Chris, you can find his financial advice in the Times Free Press, and we will have his email address on our website a little bit later in the day. Chris, you made my head hurt. Hurt. We got to run. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 10 for more Let's Chat.